So what actually happens when the giants, China, Russia, America, start colliding over where the world is headed?
Yeah, it feels less like theory these days and more like, well, the reality we're living through.
Exactly. And Michael McFaul's book, Autocrats versus Democrats, China, Russia, America, and the New Global Disorder really dives into that. It doesn't just map the tension, it suggests we're in a genuinely new, precarious era.
It's a critical book for right now, absolutely. And today, we're going deep. Our goal isn't just to summarize it. We really want to pull out the core insights.
And also, crucially, to test the foundations it's built on.
Precisely.
Because we believe that some books must be challenged. So this critique uses, where it fits, a step-by-step critical thinking framework. We're mapping claims to evidence, thinking along the lines of Richard Paul and Linda Elder.
Right. And we're also bringing in an intellectual framework, drawing from Mortimer J. Adler's work.
Right.
Plus, we use concepts like the Golden Rule and the aims in the U.S. Preamble to look for ethical asymmetries.
Then we wrap it up with a logical analysis and aim for a balanced conclusion.
Basically, we're systematically looking at the facts presented and the underlying philosophy behind the recommendations. And just a quick note before we really get started.
Yes.
You're experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation. This is powered by Google's NotebookLM, which allows for Rethink, a deeper, more dynamic book critique.
Okay, let's unpack McFaul's main argument. He puts forward this really strong idea about the conflict today. He's saying the current threats, think China's massive rise, Russia's outright aggression, and America's own serious internal divisions.
Yeah, the political and social struggle.
That all this together demands something completely new from democracies.
And what's really striking is his central thesis. This is not just Cold War redux. He explicitly rejects that idea.
He warns against that nostalgia.
Exactly. He argues that the way autocracies are aligning now, Moscow and Beijing working together, combined with these, well, isolationist trends popping up in the West, that's a genuinely new kind of challenge. It's not the 20th century all over again.
So the whole game has changed. It's not just two big military powers staring each other down. The book's saying we need fresh, principled, really collaborative democratic strategies. Because those old containment ideas, they just don't fit this world.
A world that's hyper-connected, awash in information.
Right. You can't just draw a line like before.
Yeah.
Strategies from World War II or the 80s won't work.
And that distinction is so important for you, the listener, because McFaul argues this conflict isn't just between governments, it's being fought inside our societies.
That's a powerful point.
You see it with disinformation campaigns, election interference, the rise of populism that kind of eats away at democratic stability from within.
That internal dimension is maybe the most compelling part, I think. It really makes you confront the idea that our own domestic political health is fundamentally a national security issue.
Absolutely. If democracies are fractured at home.
How can we possibly lead or sustain a global democratic movement? It means citizens need new kinds of solidarity, more vigilance. It's not just up to governments to make grand policy pronouncements.
Well said. So when we shift gears and apply that critical thinking framework, we need to see how he supports these big claims.
Where's the evidence?
He does lay out a broad historical picture, drawing on, believe it or not, 3 centuries of great power competition. The idea is to show these challenges have roots, but today's setup is novel.
And he backs that up with very current examples, things everyone recognizes. Russia grabbing Crimea back in 2014.
A major flashpoint.
The surge in populist and far-right movements globally, and those really jarring shifts in U.S. foreign policy under Trump, moving towards more transactional deals instead of shared values.
And his evidence feels strongest, perhaps unsurprisingly, when he's drawing on his own direct policy experience, especially concerning Russia. He makes a detailed case about how Moscow's actions and Washington's inward turn are shaking up the whole global system, moving us away from a clear U.S.-led order to something, well, messier, more contested.
Okay, but this is where that critical lens becomes really vital. When we map the claims to the evidence, you start to see where the pushback comes from. While his diagnosis of what autocrats are doing now is often seen as pretty solid, critics argue the book kind of skates over major U.S. policy blunders that arguably helped create some of the current instability.
Yeah, the critique often zeroes in on what feels like a selective engagement with American mistakes. Key examples brought up are the 2003 invasion of Iraq.
The huge one.
And the whole debate around NATO expansion after the Cold War, how fast, how far. These weren't small things. They arguably reshaped the geopolitical landscape. Critics say the book mentions them, but maybe doesn't fully grapple with their impact.
And the worry there is if you minimize past errors, especially really big ones, it can slightly weaken the credibility of the prescriptions for the future.
Makes sense.
If the book is calling for wisdom and renewed virtue from democracies, it arguably needs a fuller reckoning with some of those costly past decisions. How can you promise a path back to order if you don't fully account for how the disorder was, in part, created?
That really captures the core tension in this part of the critique, doesn't it? There's this desire to uphold democracy as a force for good, which is understandable, but sometimes that might overshadow the need for some uncomfortable historical self-reflection. It can leave the analysis feeling maybe a bit incomplete.
That's a really clear way to put it. And as you, our listener, are thinking through these complexities, these friction points, remember, you can always explore further with our platform. Check out Mindful Moments, that's our YouTube channel.
We offer AI book analysis, summaries, critiques, and these deep dive conversations, all aimed at inspiring reflection and, importantly, rational thought. We work hard to keep the analysis rigorous and balanced.
Definitely worth exploring.
Okay, let's shift now to the intellectual framework, using Mortimer Adler's ideas. He pushes us to distinguish between understanding, just grasping the facts, and wisdom, figuring out the right thing to do.
Right. And a lot of McFaul's book operates very effectively in the understanding space. He's decoding historical patterns, pulling together geopolitical information, explaining the practical consequences for international relations. It's descriptive, analytical work. He's telling us what's happening and why.
But then, especially in the later sections with policy recommendations, he's clearly aiming for wisdom. He shifts from being an analyst to being an advocate.
He's telling leaders, and citizens too, what they should do to reach a good outcome, aligning actions with noble goals.
And this is where that line can get a bit blurry, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. In those final chapters, the boundary between the evidence-based analysis and the strong recommendation, the normative advocacy, it starts to fade a little. As a reader, you're being asked to trust that the specific path laid out isn't just logical, but it's actually the wisest way forward.
Which brings us to the ethical test. We look at this through the lens of the Golden Rule's spirit and the goals set out in the U.S. Preamble. Now, the book doesn't explicitly say Golden Rule, but
the ethical core is there. It strongly emphasizes solidarity among democracies. Calls for mutual defense, shared prosperity, basically. Treat other democracies as you'd want to be treated. Support each other.
and when you hold the vision up against the U.S. Preamble's aims, forming a more perfect union, establishing justice, promoting the general welfare, McFaul's ideas line up pretty well. He's arguing for more global cooperation to achieve those kinds of goals on a wider scale.
True. But here's where critics raise a significant counter-argument based on another preamble goal, ensuring domestic tranquility. Or maybe global tranquility in this context.
The potential downside.
Right. If McFaul's strategy is focusing on renewed democratic engagement, strong alliances inherently mean more confrontation with autocracies, does that risk undermining tranquility? Could it actually escalate tensions and worsen the very disorder the book wants to fix?
It's a tough question. Is more democratic confrontation really the surest path to global peace? That forces a hard look at the potential consequences.
That's the policy paradox right there. And it leads us straight into assessing the logical consistency. Now, logically, the way he diagnoses how autocracies and democracies function, both externally and internally, that's generally seen as pretty coherent, he maps out those complex dynamics clearly.
Yes, the diagnosis seems sound.
Well,
But the causal link he asserts that renewed American leadership will automatically or necessarily restore global peace that feels more asserted than rigorously demonstrated sometimes.
it does seem to lean a bit on a belief in American exceptionalism, doesn't it? The inherent virtue of American global leadership.
It pops up occasionally, yes.
And relying on that idea without maybe fully grappling with the democratic backsliding within the U.S., the deep polarization, the cultural fights that creates a real risk. The book holds out the promise of long-term wisdom through renewed democratic action.
Right.
But our analysis suggests if those deep internal cracks in Western societies aren't mended, the global situation could still easily tilt towards more disorder, no matter how robust the foreign policy sounds on paper.
That's a critical point. Domestic health and foreign policy strength are intertwined. So let's try to summarize strengths first.
Okay. Persuasive, definitely urgent case for principled internationalism, for revitalizing alliances. Rich historical context is a big plus, and the recommendations are clear, structured, accessible, useful for policymakers, but also for regular citizens who care about this stuff.
Agreed. On the weaknesses side, We noted that tendency sometimes to perhaps oversimplify complex histories, maybe framing past U.S. actions in a way that doesn't fully capture institutional responsibility.
Yeah, the good guys versus bad guys framing can creep in. And again, that selective engagement with significant American policy failures remains a consistent point critics raise.
Which leaves us, and you, the listener, with some really big unresolved questions to chew on after finishing the book.
First one. Can this whole project of championing global democracy actually work if the deep divides political, cultural within Western societies, especially America, aren't healed first?
That's number one. And number two, is it even possible to build these strong, new, democracy-focused institutions without, maybe unintentionally, provoking more resistance? Not just from autocracies, but maybe also from skeptical nations in the global South.
These are definitely the heavy questions for our times.
They really are.
At the end of the day, Autocrats versus Democrats is a really important read because it forces us to confront the huge geopolitical and philosophical stakes of the 21st century. It pushes readers past just being nostalgic or polarized.
Towards thinking about practical collective action. It argues the future hinges not just on dealing with external threats, but fundamentally on whether the democratic world can renew itself from the inside.
That internal renewal piece is key.
And just to note, the critique we've laid out today aimed to be systematic and precise, really exploring the argument's depth and what it implies.
Right. And circling back to those Adlerian principles we mentioned, the book really challenges you to separate opinion from genuine wisdom. It urges you to critically test its claims. Do they match reality? Are they coherent? Do they lead to good practical outcomes? It's fundamentally a call for rational engagement with these huge issues.
Well put. For a deeper dive, click the link on screen for the in-depth book analysis. Please subscribe, share, purchase via the link if you're interested, and above all, think rationally.
And check out the many other genre-based book podcasts we have at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.